the another group of guys now on campus for you, get things rolling with them. Any early, just from what you've seen or what your coaches have relayed, but Bish, those kind of things, just what maybe the plan is early on to kind of get them acclimated to things?
Our plan hasn't changed. Nothing's really changed. I mean, we have 2 5-week summer school sessions, of which we're allowed to work 4 of the 5 weeks. We have 8 hours per week that we sit down and plan. Usually around the middle of May, Coach Bishop, Coach Bishop and myself, we sit down and go through areas that he may want to tweak. He's always tweaking something. And then from a basketball standpoint, as far as basketball goes in the summer, really nothing changes. We go Monday and Tuesday, then Thursday and Friday. What we do on Monday is what we do every Monday for 10 years, or at least 9. I don't know that we did it the first year. We're just trying to field a team that first year. But Tuesdays are Tuesdays. Wednesdays are kind of recovery days. Thursdays we work on specific things, and that's kind of where accountability starts for us. And then on Fridays is kind of another level to Thursday, and then they have the weekend to recover, and then we go back at it. This is our second week of workouts. Today is our second Thursday. We have a kids basketball camp going on right now, so all our guys are working the camp. But I was here this morning about a little bit after 6. We always say let's start at 6:30, but this team's not a lot different than the other teams. We usually get going around 6:12, 6:14, usually before 6:15, and we just have a routine that I've come up with a long time ago, and we just kind of stay with it.
Thank you, Joseph. We'll go to Chris Gardner with Houston Round Ball Review. Chris, please go ahead.
Coach, what are your thoughts on the competing in the Players Era Festival and the NIL component, but also do you believe other MTEs will go this route in the future?
To answer your last question, yes. You're having to do things that you normally wouldn't do. We went from 18 to 20 games with the Big 12 schedule, but last time I checked, you don't get any NIL money for playing Big 12 games. So we're having to be very creative within our own programs and trying to figure out how we're going to do it. But the tournament itself is, anytime you go play any kind of tournament, last year we played in Charleston. Who did we play? Dayton, University of Utah, Towson State. We'll play 3 more teams in this tournament. So we're always going to play good teams.
Thank you, Chris. We'll go to Terrence Harris with the Houston Defender. Terrence, please go ahead, sir.
Coach, how you doing?
Good,
hey,
Terrence.
Coach. Hey, I'm kind of to piggyback off of what Chris just asked. I just want to know just kind of how did this all come about with this tournament and being invited to it?
We got invited to it last November.
Okay.
And then, we had to do a lot of, checks, background, Zooms, a lot of homework to make sure that what we're doing is compliant. I don't have the power to say yes or no independent of our athletic department and then our university. So once the contracts started going back and forth, this is the first for them as well. Now, some of the guys that approached me were lifelong friends of mine. One of them I actually played college basketball against. But when he explained it to me, of course, I had a lot of questions that I had to ask. And then once we got all the details hammered out, I think we were one of the first schools they approached. And right away, I said yes. Now I have the ability to say yes or no. I mean, that's my call. But as far as the contractual things, you know, that's on a pay grade higher than mine. It usually goes to the university to make sure that. But you know, NIL has created a whole new level of crossing T's and dotting I's. You know, we're all new to this. We're not 10-year vets in NIL. Every month something comes up, we have to ask questions, make sure we're doing it the right way. So, but it was, you know, they called probably schools that have had some success, at least consistent success, because, you know, you want the best teams in your tournament. And when you're playing early in the season, you really don't care who you play. You know, the most important thing is getting ready for conference season. So, you know, for us, we've always played really good teams in non-conference, and this coming season will be no different.
When the NIL first came about, I mean, did you ever envision it kind of coming to this? And how are you adjusting to this whole new, you know, frontier, if you will?
No. Would answer first part is no. You know, I've been over to the Middle East twice. The biggest transition base for the United States Army is right outside of Kuwait City. The name of the base is Camp Arifjan. So the first time I went into Camp Arifjan, and it's a base that has around 9,000 troops. The troops are transitioning in for whatever their mission will be. And then the ones that complete their mission transition out. So there are always 9,000 troops coming and going. But once you get through an extensive security check to go into the base, the first sign you see is adapt and overcome. That's the first sign. And it's a town in itself. It has speed limit signs, it has traffic signs, but that's the first sign, adapt and overcome. So the question you asked me, Terrence, that's how I would tell you that how I'm adjusting this. I adapt, I overcome, and I move forward. This is not something that you agree with or don't agree with. It has nothing to do with that. As a matter of fact, that would be a very ignorant take on it. You better understand it. It's here to stay. There is no you know, the good old days is gone. You can sit around and talk about them all you want, but you know, it's kind of like you know, when I remember when we first went to the Iraq War, and there's a lot of people that will agree and disagree politically with a lot of things, and I could care less about any of that. But one thing that I do remained very concrete on is that we have to support our troops. You don't have to agree on the wars if you want, but you know, we have American troops fighting for our freedom. I support them.
Yes.
I don't sit around and get in an argument why and why not, but I do support our troops, and this is a million miles away from that, obviously, but it's not about whether you agree with it or not. You better understand it, and you better get in line and get with it, or you're gonna get left behind.
There it is. Thanks, Coach.
Okay.
We'll go to Chris Baldwin with Paper City, Houston, please. Chris, please go ahead.
Hey, Kelvin.
Hey.
What have you seen from Terrence and JoJo?
Nothing. They're recovering from surgery. I see them on the Versa Climber. I see them running. I see them doing individual drills, but they're not doing anything with the team.
And I mean, how are they, progressing? Are they in the schedule that you hope they would be?
Yeah, they'll be fine eventually.
Thank you, Chris. We'll go to Andy Yanez, please. Andy, please go ahead.
Hey, Kelvin, how you doing, sir?
Andy, you been on vacation, or I mean, you still trying? You hanging in there, man? You doing all right?
Doing great, sir. Full-time job the past few months. That's why you haven't seen as much of me as
I
in the
know.
past.
So I've been traveling the last couple of days, so I'll pick out a game to watch if I'm on a plane going, and I'll pick out a game to watch if I'm coming back. So I was watching this game last night, and I hit pause, and I said, "Is that Andy Yanez?" I saw you sitting on the baseline of a game with one of those yellow construction caution vest, fluorescent. I didn't know if you ran from stopping traffic or what you were, or guiding cars. Next thing I know, my man Andy's down there with one of them little fluorescent vests on. You're moving up in the world, Andy. You're going from junior assistant with the school newspaper to wearing one of them vests. You get big time.
One of the day I was wearing those vests, I was just taking photos, I guess, pretending to be a photographer that day. That's definitely.
Versatility. I'm gonna start calling you Ramon Walker, Mr. Versatility.
Appreciate it, Kelvin. I have a couple questions, but I guess the first one I'll go. Can you talk about the process? Really, what stood out to you and your coaching staff when you guys were evaluating Milos, and ultimately led to him joining you guys' team here?
What did what? What the hell kind of question? What are you asking, Andy?
What stood out to you about Milos during the evaluation process to get him here at Houston?
What stood out to us during the evaluation process? You mean what we liked about him?
Correct.
Okay. Well, number one, he's a point guard. In high school you don't have a quarterback, so you line the wide receivers up and see who can throw it the furthest. And the guy can throw it the furthest. Hey, why don't you get behind center and see if we can play quarterback? And the kid can't play dead in the cowboy movie, because he's not a quarterback, but he can throw it a long way. Well, point guard is the same thing. You're either a point guard or you are not. That's why we've only had 3 around here in 10 years. We've had Galen Robinson, who we recruited to be the point guard because he was a point guard. Dejan Giroux, once he got the baby giraffe out of him, he was a point guard at his core. And then when we evaluated Jamal, we didn't evaluate him to see if he could play point guard. We evaluated him because he is a point guard. I would say the same thing about Milos. Milos is a point guard. But none of our players are any different. Probably one of the guy that was furthest behind of anybody coming in here the summer prior to his freshman year probably would have been Marcus. Marcus probably was carrying some extra weight, and Payne. At some point, Payne has to be your friend. But early on, it becomes an opinion. Some people have a high opinion of it. Some of them have a low opinion of it. Marcus had a very high opinion of Payne. Milos, like all the kids coming in, I don't really like talking about one particular kid this time of the year because they're all the same to me. But most of these kids, all of our kids, not most, all of our kids know exactly what it is they're getting into. As much as we choose them, they choose us. They talk to the players, current and former. They ask all the right questions. The parents are very astute. They ask all the right questions. So when they get here, it's kind of like a orientation, and then it becomes an indoctrination, and then eventually it will catch hold. But it's a slippery slope at first. They don't always have something to grab onto. They slip back in the water, and then they have to get back on the boat. I enjoy watching them slip, but I enjoy watching them get back up too. So it's all a process. Everybody goes through the process. Nobody's special around here until you figure it out.
Thank you, Andy. We'll go back to Joseph Duarte, please. Go ahead, Joseph.
Kelvin, and about the last hour, there have been reports that the Big 12 is looking or will get into some type of private equity partnership where there'll be a stake of the league that they do to look for revenue opportunities. Along those lines, I was curious with the NIL component and everything. Can you see a time where in basketball maybe you have naming rights on the floor in terms of corporations, or your jersey has a patch that has a corporation, that kind of thing, anything like that to sort
You
of
mean
drive
like
revenue?
you mean like the NBA?
Yeah, like the NBA.
Of course. When that new directive came down that we have to find $22 million as new dollars, you're not going to get that from your donors, nor should you. That's why when it gets to be nut cutting time, you can figure out the people that can handle the heat. Well, every university is going to have to tighten their belt. This free willy spending stuff is gone, and that's why certain conferences have separated themselves. Their revenue stream is SEC. The SEC is just on a different shelf in the closet. Their budgets. When I got here 2014, I think our budget was $48 million. That's about 40 to 48, about Conference USA. That's where we were. Now we've steadily increased and improved. Now that we're in the Big 12, we went through a waiting period or a probation period, whatever you want to call it, until we're a full rights member, where we get full share or a full share member. But just like the schools are going to be held accountable for new revenue streams, finding new dollars out there, so is Brett Yormark. He's the commissioner of the Big 12. Just like I'm held accountable for my team's success, I think the success for this conference is Brett Yormark is going to have his plate full. It's not easy in this day and age because there's so many universities headed down the same direction. But that's one of the reasons why I feel good about the Big 12. I think we got a guy that thinks outside the box. He's coming up with new ideas to keep us competitive. We can't let the SEC and the Big 10 get too far away from us. We got to find a way to stay competitive. Terrence asked a question earlier about the NIL. The NIL by itself has changed the landscape of athletics more than anything that's happened since I've been involved. And that's almost 44 years. I've never seen anything that has impacted. It's impacted people's jobs. It's impacting whether we keep sports or not keep sports. It's created a tsunami of far-ranging effects. And I stand by what I said earlier. We have to adjust. This is, I'm not going to call or jump on social media, talk radio, and talk about it. I don't have time for that silliness. You know, you better dig in and figure out how to make it work, because it's not going away. You know, I could tell last year in October when we were going into the season, you know, coaches talk, but we talk shop. And one of the things that I said earlier was that just like what share are we going to get from the American Athletic Conference versus what shares are we going to get from the Big Ten, or I'm sorry, from the Big 12? And that's really what separates schools. These boosters are people from certain schools that run around sticking their chest out saying my school is better than your schools. Well, let's see why. It's because of the media rights. You're able to build facilities, use mortar and brick to build this unbelievable athletic complex. Where did you get the money from? You got the money from media rights deals. So you either a have or a have not in terms of monies for athletics. Well, we're headed into a time now where there is going to be some monumental decisions that university presidents, and it starts with them. University presidents are going to have to make some tough decisions. Athletic directors don't have the autonomy to make decisions outside of their boss. You know, the boss here is the president of the university. Her boss is the board of trustees, the board of regents. Their jobs have all of a sudden become extremely difficult because they're going to have to make some decisions that's going to impact student athletes' lives, coaches' lives, and then the domino effect of that is fans, supporters, people that love these programs, and it's going to be tough. We got some tough. If you're in athletics, you have some tough days ahead of you, but tough times require tough people. You got to be tough enough to deal with this stuff. I have zero interest in complaining. That doesn't solve anybody's problem. You know, all I care about is solutions. The village idiot can figure out the problem. You don't have to be very smart to tell me what the problem is. As dumb as I am, I probably got it figured out too. But solution, what's the solution? Let's talk about how we're going to fix this. Let's talk about a path forward. Long term, what are we going to look like in 5 years from now? What's this going to look like in 3 years from now? That's what I work on. I work on solutions. You know, this kid gets hurt, that kid gets hurt. We lose this kid for the year, that kid for the year. Okay, done. No sense talking about it anymore. It's done. It's over. What's the solution? How do we fix this? How do we move forward and still stay and sustain the same level of success? Therein lies the difference. You've got to be willing to think and ask questions and listen to ideas, then come up with your plan. You know, what's the plan here, man? Give me a plan. Let's talk about our plan. And if you don't have a plan, then I'm gonna figure out a plan. But we got to have a plan. What's the plan? And that's where we're headed. I have great respect for every college and university in this country, but I only love one, and that's the University of Houston. I care about our university. I care about us going forward. I care about all our programs. You know, I care about Carl Lewis and the track program. I want them to be successful. I love Willie Fritz. Awesome dude. We're so lucky to have him. But we've got to give him every resource to be successful. You know, and that requires tightening our belts, figuring out what tomorrow's going to look like, at the same time planning for what next Friday is going to look like too. You know, you've got to be, your mind's got to be constantly working. Research. Look what the best are doing. Steal their ideas. But for God's sake, don't sit on your ass and complain.
We'll go back to Chris Baldwin, please. Chris, please go ahead.
Kelvin, what does it mean to have your full staff back and to have guys, turning down jobs to stay with what you guys have built?
Well, all our guys have the ability, I'm when they come to me about an opportunity, it's in their contract. First of all, they can't seek a job or take a job without me knowing about it. Same thing with me with my bosses. We all have a contractual obligation. If somebody contacts us about a job, to contact our bosses. So when they get contacted a lot more than when they come to me. But I don't ever offer advice, ever. If they want my advice, they'll ask. But sometimes they do. Sometimes they don't. They think it through. But I think that's been part of our secret sauce. I love Mondays and Tuesdays around here this time of year. I probably like Thursdays and Fridays better because of what we're doing on those days. We don't mind sharing our stuff. We have different staffs that watch us play and then contact us in the off season and ask, can they come through and get on the whiteboard with us and go through some. A lot of them will bring their staffs by practice, but what they're watching a lot of time is our assistant coaches. They're not watching me. They see how we, how Kellen's development plan. I didn't give him his development plan. That's his plan. He deserves the credit for that, not me. KC and Hollis, what they're doing in their development area, Quantas, Goldie, what they're doing in their development areas. I love to give our guys the freedom to be who they are, have confidence in themselves. So one day when they're sitting in my seat, they'll be able to do that with their staffs. But part of my growth as a head coach was I didn't have a head coach to work for. I was a head coach. We started practice that year in September. I was 24 years old, and by the time we got to Christmas, I was the head coach, and I was 25. So I never had a chance to work for another head coach. I had to make more mistakes than probably should be allowed. And these guys will be much better head coaches than I ever was, because they've had the advantage of learning from each other too, and I learned from them. I love sitting in meetings with them. I love listening to them debate, argue, damn near fight sometime. But we take it on the floor and we work through it, throw a couple of eggs in there, put it in the blender and go to work.
Thank you, Chris. We'll go to Chancellor Johnson, and then we'll have time for 2 more questions after Chancellor. Chancellor, please go ahead, sir.
Hey, Kelvin, you got a nice little tan going on there, man.
Yeah, but I'm not nearly as OG looking as you are. You got your stuff going on today, man. Look at you. hat backwards, got you. You must have got done lifting because your shirt sleeves almost up to your shoulders, showing off them guns. Go ahead. Go ahead, Chancellor.
Tell
Do you, man?
Alan,
Do you, Chancellor?
Tell Alan Bishop I'm ready to get a workout in. I'm down to
Nah,
do it.
you ain't ready for Bishop, bro.
For sure. On the concept of growth and development, when you first brought in Emmanuel Sharp into the program, how did you originally envision his potential and outlook versus where he is now? And just dealing with him day to day, how cool has it been watching him continue to grow and mature and be one of the vets in the room now as you guys are in the offseason?
You know, most of the kids now, I think we went through a period there where it seems like we were recruiting a lot of kids from single parent homes, and the parent was
I cut out on this.
Can you hear me? You guys hear me? Okay. You know, like Dejan Giroux, for instance, is one of my all-time favorite players. Regardless of where I've coached, one of my all-time favorite players was Dejan, because he challenged me probably as much as I challenged him. Jamal was like that. But a lot of these kids today, their dominant parent a lot of times is the dad, and the dads are pushing these guys to coaches that will, in their words, get the most out of them, figure out how they can be the best they can be. And I say that because we started recruiting Emmanuel in the 10th grade, and I remember that's what Derek kept saying. I want you to coach my son. I want you to coach my son. My son needs to be coached. My son needs this, or he needs that. And it has been an absolute blast watching Emmanuel from when he got here to now. We had a kid on campus last weekend, and one of the things Bishop shows is before and after. But now he's starting to show it during, before, during, and now. And it took me, watching Emmanuel took me back to how traumatic his injury was. You know, a broken leg, compound. He broke it in April, got here in December, or late December, early January. We really didn't see Emmanuel as a basketball player until that following summer. And just looking from where he is now. But, you know, I also love to see these kids find their voice, get their confidence, take pride in their program, because it is their program. You know, watching him this morning, for instance, in the weight room with Mercy Miller or Chase or Milos or Jacob McFarland or Sid, you know, a lot of the younger guys, you know, they look up to these older guys, because these older guys treasure. These older guys love this program because they help create it. They help sustain it. You know, the coach gets way too much credit for this. I may have initially created this culture, but this culture has been sustained by these players, and they've made it better. They hold each other accountable. That's not coach speak. That's the truth. Emmanuel has been that guy. Emmanuel could easily, I'm not saying he is, but Emmanuel's got captain material. He didn't have that when he got here. He's developed that. You know, Nate Hinton, when I recruited Nate, I remember telling Kellen, I was watching him in April of his junior year, I said, that kid there can be our captain one day. I thought that about Galen when I saw him in the summer of 2014. I said, that kid can be your captain one day. Because when I recruit kids, I always think, who can that kid be a leader? Now when I see this kid, or that kid, I don't think that, because they don't have that DNA. But Emmanuel does, and all credit to Emmanuel, because he's developed that. You know, which is the reason why our kids don't transfer. They come back, because they have a connection with this program, because they've invested in it personally and they love it.
Got time for two more questions. One of them will go to Adam Winkler from KTRK TV. Adam, please go ahead.
Kelvin, you're still so plugged into the NBA. You're well aware that Jamal's stock is rising in the draft 2 weeks from now, but I'm going to tee up a little bit and wonder what your thoughts are that the so-called experts have him as the 11th best point guard in the draft.
Jamal's here right now. I just talked to him 5 minutes before I came in here. I think he's working out he called me yesterday from San Antonio. He's with Pop and those guys. And then tomorrow he works out with the Rockets. 11th, he's 11th, the best 11th rated point guard in this class, recruiting draft class.
The list I'm looking at has him as the 11th best point guard in the draft.
Well, my first response, who's the other 10? You know, I mean, who those other 10 must be really good. Because I think Jamal's really good. I've never really gotten into comparing our guys. I don't, really care about fodder like that. I did tell Jamal early on in his career that if NBA was going to be in his future, he had to be really good at what he was good at both ends. Because one end, at 6 foot, he's never going to have one end define him. He'd be the best defender all he wants to. If he can't make people better and get in the paint and create shots for somebody, then he's not going to get drafted. Or if all he can do is get in the paint and create shots for somebody and can't guard, he's not going to get drafted. But you got to be good at 6 foot. You got to be really good at both ends because you're going in with one strike against you, your size. That's just reality. But, about this time of the year, the higher ups in each organization start to call me. When the season's over, the interns or the guys that do the busy work just call and check on this or check on that because they're doing background checks, call a bunch of our other guys. But this time of year, I can tell the teams that are most interested in Jamal, who it is. If the GM is calling me, if the president's calling me, if the head coach is calling me, I can tell they're serious. So those other 10 guys, congratulations to them. They're pretty good.
Thank you, Adam. We'll go last question of the day. We'll go back to Joseph Duarte, please. Joseph, go ahead.
Kelvin, now that the athletic year is basically over, this is the end of the first year of the Big 12. Either from your program standpoint or athletic department wide, anything that jumps out to you just in terms of this being the first year for the university and the Big 12, maybe. I mean, you knew this conference very well before you joined in, but just maybe some observation that you had that sort of shows where you're going as a team or as a department into the future beyond year one.
Well, as a department, we're way behind, as we should be. We're severely underfunded and severely under-resourced. You don't go from Conference USA to the American and then 10 years later, having been an American for ever how many years it's been, 10, 11 years, and then go play, especially for Olympic sports. The first year I was hired as the head coach at University of Oklahoma, they hired 2 brand new head coaches that year, me and Patty Gasso. Patty Gasso's the softball coach at, I think she's on her, 8th national championship. You should have seen the softball program she walked into. Now you should see it today. They're building her second stadium. You should see the baseball stadium at Oklahoma State. We're not in these guys' area code. So we're in the Big 12. That doesn't mean that we're a Big 12 school. I think that what women's volleyball has done, women's volleyball is well supported and well resourced, and they've got an outstanding coach. Football is way behind any of the schools. Willie's going to need great support. He's going to need better resources if he's going to compete with those other schools. When I came here as a Big Ten head coach and a Big 12 head coach and an NBA coach. So I knew what it looked like. And my goal from day one is to make us a major college basketball program. I knew what that process looked like. And the good thing is they gave me an opportunity to do it. There was some wars and battles, as there still are. But the good news is I won most of them. But University of Houston is years away from being shoulder to shoulder with these other programs. And for people that expect, the expectations get too high because of the patch on the side of our sleeve. We're a ways away from that in a lot of the other programs. They've got the right coaches. They just need time to develop depth. Instead of playing this school, this school, and that school, now they're playing teams that are ranked in the top 25. And the results are going to be pretty predictable, but it just takes time. University of Houston is developing a great brand, but we're not there yet. It's a process. This time last year, I was getting asked a lot about going to the Big 12. I never processed that. I didn't care about playing in the Big 12. Not that I didn't care about it. I was excited about it, but that was not part of my daily thought. It was somebody else's that had never seen it. My daily thought was what I'm doing right now. This time last year, I was trying to figure out how to replace Marcus Sasser, Tremont Mark, Reggie Chaney, and Jarris Walker. Honestly, I worried more about that than I did playing the Big 12 teams. I never worried about playing the Big 12 teams until I found out who we played and when we played them. And then now this year it's different. We got some guys back, but we got some young guys that their roles are going to change. Expectations will change. We're used to replacing good players around here. I've never worried about that. We'll have a point guard this year. As I said back in April, we'll get us a point guard. We'll figure out how to play with him, and he'll figure out how to play with us, and we'll move on down the road. But it's been a learning experience, I think, for our fans and our coaches and our student athletes, that you just don't jump into Big 12 and think that you're on the level playing field with these teams. That's why we need to continue to build our donor support. We need to make some hard decisions on brick and mortar versus NIL. Things that we didn't have to think or worry about 5 years ago. 5 years ago, you said, what's it going to look like in 5 years? Well, it's here, and here's what it looks like. Okay, what's it going to look like 5 years from now? The guys that can figure out what where the road is going and be forward thinkers and get outside the box. Don't get in a bunker and put your hands over your head and worry about getting hit. Get your ass out there and fight. Figure out how we're going to win this battle. To me, that's the only way that we're going to survive here. We got to fight. We got to fight for more donors. We've got to fight to get our fans more educated on what we want to accomplish and how we cannot do it without our donors and our boosters and our alumni. They are our lifeline, and we've got to come up with more ways to make it more appealing to come to our football games. I think our football team is going to grow and grow and grow with Willie. I'm looking forward to it, but we need to. To me, it starts this fall with filling that football stadium. we got to get butts and seats. You know, that's got to get real. Our marketing people's got to get off their butts and figure out how we get butts and seats. You know, it's like there's a lot of ways to win a basketball game other than making shots. You know, if we're not winning, then let's figure out how to get people in those seats. Let's make it fun to come to football games. I roll in here most mornings about 5:55, 6 o'clock. Willie Fritz's car is already here. He's already here. His kids, I see them zooming by me with those little scooters all the time. They're working, man. His football team's working. Let's support them. Let's get some butts and seats. And we all have priorities that we have to take care of with our families. But if you have our programs, we sure appreciate it. But we do it for you. I know when we go to Dallas and we're playing Duke, or we're going to San Antonio playing Arizona, or we're in Pittsburgh playing Illinois, I can hear the pride in our Cougars, our to have one of their teams at a national level. And we're going to keep working our tails off to remain there, but we need your help.
Thank you, and happy Father's Day on Sunday.
Happy Father's Day to everybody. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you for your time, Coach. Appreciate it.